Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to volume 2, number 8 of Construmat's Knowledge and Experience series. My name is Mami Adrabota, and I'll be your moderator for this morning's panel discussion. On this week's session, we'll be delving into discussions with 3 industry experts from different fields who started their journeys as civil engineers. This session seeks to illuminate the transferable skills, the challenges that one may face when deciding to embark on a career change, and the unique perspectives gained from a civil engineering background. In no particular order, we have on the panel Mr. James J. Berema, a quantitative analyst with over a decade of experience specializing in credit and market risk. He presently works with an Israeli fintech company, Fido Group, as a financial analyst within the global risk management team. We also have Dr. Mrs. Jemima Asumeni, a pediatric resident at Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and a senior medical officer at the Tema General Hospital Pediatric Unit. She's also a clinical administrative secretary of the unit at the Tema General Hospital. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Jamel Amwako, an experienced business leader who specializes in fast-moving consumer goods in Africa. He leads the African division of the Global Global Expansion Markets at Reckitt, a UK-based FMCG multinational, and is passionate about his ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's session.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you, Nalaja.
Right. I hope you're all comfortable with me addressing you by your first names.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's proceed then. So like I mentioned earlier, all 3 of my panelists started out as young civil engineers, graduating with first degrees from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. But after graduating, and in some cases working as engineers for a while, decided to switch careers. I'll start off with you, Jamil. Can you describe what your experience was like pursuing a degree in civil engineering at KNUST? What were some of your fondest memories?
I would say that it was my time in KNUST and particularly pursuing civil engineering was quite exciting, you know. For me, it was the liberation from parental control, right? So it was the first time pretty much I had the freedom to sort of enjoy their life, but also like an academic sort of terrain. So yeah, it was liberating. It was fun. I remember having to stay up very late, not going to my room because I didn't have any curfews to obey as I did in, SHS and also at home. So yeah, I have very fond memories, of the liberation, the opportunity to manage my own time, make new friends, but also pursue a degree that was quite interesting for me at that time.
Okay, thank you very much. James, will you be able to weigh in on this as well?
Yes, so I think not too different from Jamel's case, but I think for my case, probably the additional thing I would want to add was that the opportunity to meet people from all over the country and even from other countries in Africa, Nigeria, and others. So it was quite exciting to really understand things from the perspective of people who had lived in different places, in Ghana and even beyond Ghana. So it was an exciting period for me.
Okay, Dr. Jemima.
Oh, wow, Jemima is fine.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Okay, so just as my colleagues are saying, so the amazing thing is we're also in the same class.
Wow.
So yeah, it was exciting and to be, engineering, civil engineering was more male dominated. So we're just a few number of ladies in the class. We got some sort of pampering, even though the course was a bit stressful. At least you get your male counterparts trying to help you one way or the other. So I think it was an exciting period for me. It was really exciting.
Okay, that's good to know. So clearly you all had very fond memories from school. I'm sure from giving your course mates a run for their money every semester, trying to catch up with you, and to forming strong bonds with others. James, you for one worked for 3 years as a civil engineer, and Dr. Jemima did a stint at Simon as a site engineer. What preempted your decision then to transition into your current careers? James, I'd like to start with you.
Right. So I started off as a consulting engineer, and as you rightly said, with Comtran engineering, and I'm sure most of us know of Comtran engineering, basically doing traffic studies and in some cases highway designs. But then I think along the line, in my days as an engineer, I realized I had a passion for finance and investment management, which actually led me to pursue further studies in that area. But overall, I think it was quite exciting in the engineering field, but I just realized that I needed something that was more fulfilling, and for which reason I had to make the decision I did.
Okay. All right, then, Jemima, was it the same for you?
Yeah, so me right from the start of my course as an engineer in the civil engineering student, I always wanted to do them. Even though I was pursuing it in school, when I was done, I was still looking for probably programs that would help me to shift into the medical field. So even though I was working in the field, I still had my eyes on doing medicine. So when I got the opportunity, then I moved.
All right.
Not that I wasn't enjoying it, but I think the passion for the medicine was stronger than the engineering.
Okay. All right then. Jamil, would like to hear from you as well.
Yeah, so I never got to practice civil engineering actually. So I started off Procter & Gamble after being recruited on campus. So there was a campus recruitment drive.
Okay.
And I just went in there to write the exam. But I think it was also a fall off from my overall impressions and the feeling and sentiment I had about civil engineering. And, civil engineering is a great program, but then I had this unsettling feeling that I wanted something slightly different. At that time, the inkling into the course or the program or the career was basically what I could see from my lectures. So, and I must say that lectures were not a very good representation of the degree. So I could not see myself, carrying, even dressing the way they were, carrying themselves on. I couldn't see myself in them. So when the opportunity came to write the aptitude test with Procter & Gamble, I grabbed it, and then by God's grace, I was able to pass and then change the course of, my life, I should say. So I never got to practice civil engineering. I just got off from KNUST directly into the FMCG world.
Okay. All right now. So we've just dived into what preempted your career changes, but I'm sure the transition in itself would not have been easy. Dr. Jemima, what were some challenges you faced during your career transition, going back to school to study for medicine? How did your family and friends take the decision? And most importantly, how did you overcome some of these challenges?
Okay, so as for my family, I think they were very supportive because I kept telling them immediately I graduated, I kept telling my dad I really wanted to do the medicine. I wanted to change.
Okay.
So he was, I think they were they were the number one people supporting me to change. So it wasn't too difficult for them to accept. But entering into the medical school was the issue because in engineering I had put, you do science in the senior high school. So at least I had done biology, I had done chemistry and all that, but I had put it on hold for close to like 5 years. And then you go back to the medical school, and then you're supposed to do this biology, more advanced biology and chemistry. As for the physics, it wasn't too much, and the mathematics wasn't too much. But then the biology and the chemistry was a bit of a challenge because I was in the class. It was a postgraduate program, so all the people I was in class with had done probably biochemistry in the first degree, had done nursing, physiotherapy. Everybody had done something health or medical in their first degree. So I was the only person from outside medicine who was coming back. So they come to class and they are teaching, and I was totally lost. So I think the first few months I felt it was a wrong decision because I was doing okay in engineering, and then why am I stressing myself? Why am I going to embarrass myself? But I keep telling myself that probably I would have to be an inspiration to somebody who also wants to change. So if I stop now and then somebody goes to find out, hey, she did engineering, she was going to do medicine, she couldn't do it. Who knows? I might try and dampen the spirit of somebody. So I think that was what kept pushing me. That I mean, you have to make it to encourage others who also want to follow to do the same. So it was very challenging. As for that, it was very, very challenging. You would have to read an entirely different course, try to understand it, try to do engineering. And then we had medicine has a lot of ladies, so we had a lot of pettiness. Engineering is more of the males, so everything is straightforward. So emotions and everything, it was difficult, but I think it was on the whole it was worth it.
That's a no. Jamal, you mentioned you jumped ship right at school. Did you still find it challenging moving into the fast moving goods market?
Okay, so I'll start with this. So, I come from a very conventional family, full of pharmacists, doctors.
Right.
My sister particularly, medical doctor, could not understand why I was dogging civil engineering and with a foreign FMCG selling Pampers and sanitary pads. She could not understand, right? She used to call me every week to ask me if I was sure I was making the right decision. But then deep down, well, anything to get me away from civil engineering, actually, based on what my experience in my lectures had been. It was not very welcoming from that point of view, but then I gave them assurance as well. They should just watch and then they were going to be proud of me. So that's like the family sentiments POV. In terms of the FMCG world specifically, it's quite a contrast with civil engineering because civil engineering very inward looking, analytical, solving problems. In the FMCG world, you have to be an extrovert, you have to talk a lot, express yourself. So and that was the major challenge I faced because I was trained to think, analyze, be a bit more reserved, come up with solutions. And here I was faced with having to face consumers, customers, regulatory authority. So I think that was the major challenge for me, switching from the kind of attributes you needed to excel in civil engineering into another platform where you needed to be all out, sales person, general management. That was the major challenge for me.
Okay, then. All right. James, and yourself?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, mine started off as a conviction to move from engineering to finance. And I think following this conviction to move from engineering to finance, I actually decided to seek higher education because I thought it was needed for me to make that move. And quite frankly, the decision didn't go as expected. And this was because all the courses I came across were actually the regular mainstream financial courses. And these courses were, to me, not challenging enough. So I actually had to search for a while until I came across quantitative finance. And fortunately or unfortunately, I also realized that it was not being offered in a lot of countries. So I needed to actually travel out. I mean, at the time in Ghana, we didn't have any program like that. So I had to travel out. And at the time, as a young graduate who had worked for just 3 years, being able to finance this was an issue for me. But luckily for me, I think I was offered the scholarship once I started the program. And this was the case for all the programs I did in Europe, the opportunity to study on scholarship. But on the side of what is needed to adapt as I moved, I think not so much difference, because quantitative, as the name suggests, has that the requirement of being analytical, which I had honed in engineering. So it wasn't so much of a difference having to switch into quantitative finance. But of course, I also needed to, learn the finance, economics, and in some cases, the programming aspect of quantitative finance. But overall, quite challenging initially, as I mentioned, in reference to being able to find a school and then even getting access because of funding. But eventually, I managed to overcome all of that.
Yeah. Okay, so Jamel and James have spoken a bit about what it took for them to move from something they had spent years studying for and developing skills for, and learning to take up the lens that allowed them to view the world as engineers and transitioning into something completely different, a completely unrelated field. Jemima, how was this experience for you as well, moving into from engineering into the medical field?
Okay, so just as Jamel was saying, you see, engineering, you're supposed to be analytical in your thinking. You're supposed to be there to solve problems, do a lot of calculations and make sure everything is correct, so that, because the little error costs a lot of lives.
Yeah.
Medicine is almost okay, it's the same, just that it's not calculating. You see, so the problem I was having from transitioning from engineering to medicine was you need to also think on your feet.
Right.
You need to make sure when there's a problem, there's this adrenaline rush. It's engineering, you will take your time, think through, and then solve it. But medicine, there's nothing like take your time. There's nothing like you have time to do this, because every second counts in the life of the patient. So you should be up and going. So I think that was it. That was a bit of a struggle, because you needed to be fast, you needed to be thinking. Otherwise, every second you might lose a patient and all that. And then with engineering, you didn't need to deal so much with okay, you are dealing with people though, but with medicine, because you are dealing with clients, you need to talk to them for hours, try to convince them to understand the condition they are in and why they should take certain options in their treatments, because some of them will tell you, I don't want it. Meanwhile, you know that's the best for them. So you needed to calm down. You sit for hours and talk. Even sometimes you don't even win. You get it, and so I think that is still the challenge. I mean, you still need to be talking. By engineering, you sit, you take your decision, you go on, you are doing it, and you are going. So probably that's some of the challenges I'm facing currently, and from engineering to medicine.
Okay, but Jemima, if you can think of any, in what ways have your engineering background shaped and contributed to your success in your current field? Have you found any transferable skills which have been valuable in your role as a doctor now?
Okay, so I think engineering has to do with teamwork. So there are various teams that will be working. You see, probably there's a project, there's the structural person there, person taking care of waste management, taking care of water, drainage, all those things. And then you need to all coordinate and make sure you are working, adhering to the standards of operation, so that the projects you are putting up is acceptable and safe for people to use. So I think that's what is help. That's one of the transferable skill in medicine. So medicine is same. You have a patient with you. Patient comes in sick, and you realize the patient probably has a kidney issue. Patient is probably coughing. There's a lung problem. Patient is probably diabetic. You see, but your field is just one side. Maybe you are the one just taking. So I'm currently with children, so I take care of children. So then your problem is to address the fact that the person is a child. Then, because you are not probably an endocrinologist to take care of the hormonal and diabetes problem, you need to get a consult from an endocrinologist to come and see. And then probably there's a kidney problem, so a renal person is supposed to see. So the teamwork that was involved in engineering is transferred, is what is also helping. So it is easier for you to appreciate that. I mean, there are different people that you need when you are actually seeing a client. And then the other thing too is supervisory role. Like when you are probably a site engineer, you're supposed to make sure that the people are working. You just don't go dump their drawings. They expect your foreman to be doing it. You need to come out and then make sure that whatever it is on the drawing is what they are actually doing on the ground. So just as doctors, we go for ward rounds, you do changes because you review the patient, you make sure, okay, I think the temperature is not settling. Can we probably take a blood sample and do that and do this? It is not enough just saying it and writing it and going. You need to ensure that it is done. So I think that's also one thing. And then how to talk to the people you are working with, your colleagues, and then those who are probably below you. Because in engineering on the field, you are talking to probably your project manager or the one in charge. And then you're also talking to the foreman who is below and then the craftsman you are working with. So how to communicate with all these people effectively and clearly so that there's no ambiguity. So that's also another skill that is also helping in my profession as a doctor.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. James, so in transitioning from engineering to quantitative analysis, did you find any surprising connections between the two fields?
Yeah, so very interesting. And I think at times I feel like I'm still, within engineering because the skills required for engineering are the same for quantitative finance. So for instance, my line of duty on daily basis, I'm studying the financial markets, macroeconomic and finance data, and then also being able to predict, business variables such as, in my case, pricing and portfolio weights when we talk of credit portfolios. And these are things that require a strong analytical thinking. And I think engineering gave me this. And beyond that, I also do a lot of portfolio optimization, where by that I mean being able to determine the optimal allocation of products to ensure that you are maximizing your returns while managing risk. And this is, a problem-solving skill, which with engineering background, you are able to deliver better than people who have a typical finance background. So the skills from engineering have been very much helpful to me, and I think it actually sets me apart when it comes to my field.
Okay. All right, and Jamil, were there any skills from your engineering days that you found particularly useful in navigating the fast-moving consumer goods industry?
Okay, let me put it this way. I would say that I'm thriving and doing quite well in the FMCG world because of my engineering background. Because, and I think my colleagues have mentioned a couple of them. So to piggyback on what Jemima said regarding teamwork. So what I currently do, I can manage a multi-functional team to deliver business results. So I have a finance team I work with. I have a regulatory team I work with. I have a quality team I work with. I have a marketing team I work with. I have AI team members I work with. You have to be able to collaborate. We have a phrase, which is we collaborate internally and compete externally, right? To be able to marshal resources together internally, lead this complex multifunctional team to produce a product, take it out to the market and make the product win with consumers. So that strong attribute of teamwork, which was honed in my civil engineering days, has been very crucial to the success. The second one is the resilience and adaptability. Because, like in that phrase, we collaborate internally and then we compete externally. We are working with different multinationals who are also coming up with very innovative brands and trying to win with the consumer and the customers. So you have to be very resilient, very, very agile to be able to pick insights, very adaptable, change the formulation, if you have to go back to the product or change your marketing strategy if it's not working when it was a consumer. And that resilience and adaptability from my civil engineering days has been very key to be successful in the FMCG world.
Okay. Jamil, would you be able to share some specific experiences at work where your engineering background, like you said, provided you a unique perspective or solution in completing a task, and how you had an upper hand over your colleagues?
Okay, so many of them. I will start with the. Wait, stop me if I'm talking too much.
That's fine.
Then I would start with the Oral-B toothpaste launch. So I launched Oral-B toothpaste. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
In West Africa, so Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, and Cameroon. Right, we had tried it in the past when we were sourcing it from Belgium, right? And then for Belgium to source any product, the supply value chain, and made it very expensive in the sense that you layer up so many margins, custom duty, import taxes, right? And then we are not winning with the consumer. When we launched the product, Close Up had 80% market share in Nigeria, which was the biggest market, right? So sourcing for Belgium then did not help us or allow us to win, even though we had a far superior product, which was catering to the health of the dentition versus Close Up that was just, providing cavity protection, right? So based on the resilience and then the adaptability I've spoken about, I connected with all the supply chains globally to see which market had leaner supply value chains, which had much more competitive taxes and import duties. And we found China, right? The only thing we had to do was to send our own research and development team to the China plant to ensure that the stability and the formulation of the product was the same as what we were getting from Belgium. So in terms of product quality, we had to maintain the standard, but then China was delivering a much more leaner and better, price for us to be able to take the message to the African consumer. It's one thing having a superior product, but then it's another thing getting into the homes of these consumers for them to try and then see the benefits of the product. And that was the game changer, switching the supply chain from Belgium to China, getting the R&D guys to move into the China plants to ensure the formulation and stability of the product was at par with the Belgian product. I can tell you now that Oral-B, even though I've left Procter & Gamble, Oral-B is now a market leader in Nigeria, just because of that, decision that I took then as the commercial operations manager for Oral-K.
Right, that's very intriguing. James, do you have any similar experiences?
Yes, Nanaja. So I think I've spoken a lot about engineering, civil engineering.
Yes.
Having to have a sort of semblance with quantitative finance. And in my day-to-day activities, I see myself come across quite a number of the theories that we picked up in civil engineering being applied in quantitative finance. And I'll give one specific example where, which is related to risk management. So what we do is that at times we are interested in knowing the extent to which we are exposed to the market when it comes to our portfolios. And to be able to establish that, we go through this rigorous modeling. And one tool that we use a lot, and which I use a lot most of the time, is based on extreme value theory. And I think for those of us who have done hydrology and drainage design, this is something that comes to mind quickly. And when I say extreme value theory, I'm just referring to that tool that we use to be able to understand or assess flood risk when we talk of engineering. So usually when you are designing drains, you want to see what return period to use, as in the extreme flood you can expect. And it comes up with the theory of extreme value theory, which would eventually give you the return period to use to model your drainage design. Quite interestingly, the application is the same in quantitative engineering, quantitative finance, where I use this same extreme value theory to understand the potential impact of extreme events on our investment portfolio. So for instance, if we are thinking of a potential crash or anything that can shake the market, for instance, the COVID that we experienced, that was an extreme event. These are things we also apply the extreme value theory to understand the impact that it will have on our loan portfolio and other things when it comes to risk management. So I continue to apply a lot of skills, a lot of actually knowledge that I got from engineering, and it's quite interesting, and it actually sets me apart because usually I have the upper hand because I already understand the theories to apply.
Okay. All right then. Jemima, are you able to weigh in on this as well?
Yeah, I think mine has to do with just the soft skills I got from engineering. So just has to do with the organization skills, and then being able to assign roles and planning schedules. I was with okay, so I'm still with Sama General Hospital. Just that because I'm schooling, I have to move to Korle Bu. But
Right.
at Sama General, I was doing most of the administrative work aside as in the doctor work you're supposed to do. So you need to manage everybody in the departments, sometimes in respect to probably their various work schedules and when to attain certain, you give certain rules and then follow up on it. So mine just has to do with the soft skill, and then attention to details. So with engineering, like every detail matters because you can't just overlook anything. So I think that is also helps. So then because of that, then you are taking a history or you're talking to somebody, you make sure everything, documentation is something that I hold very paramount. Everything should be written down so that in case of any legal thing, when they take your notes or they take something that is on the client and is supposed to defend as a team, it will be very easy because everything has been like you've written everything down. So mine just has to do with the soft skills I got from engineering.
Okay. I'd like to play devil's advocate here, but in the reverse, have there been any instances where your engineering background came at a disadvantage in delivering on an assignment or in your role? Jemima?
Okay. Nothing comes. Okay, so I think what I realized was, you see, with engineering, your assessments, everything is very, very objective. Like it's either yes or no, and then you are moving on.
Right.
But with medicine, I realized that the assessment was very subjective. At the end of every level, in order to be assessed, you need to go and meet a panel, and then depending on who is on the panel or how the person feels or anything, you can make it through or not. So I think that was my struggle. I was always arguing about it. I'm like, engineering, I mean, you just go and then it says yes, it says no. You calculated it is either 6 or 7. I know there's a clear path. But with medicine, you need to try and convince people of the knowledge that you have, and then as to whether they are in a good mood or not, then you pass. So I think that's the disadvantage. But gradually I'm overcoming it. I mean,
Okay then.
I've gone
Jamil?
to I'm getting off a subjective assessment.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Jamil, have you had any experiences such as this?
Yeah. You know, I mentioned earlier on in the conversation about how engineers focus very much on the analytical part of the job. You know, and sometimes being impaired by the ability to communicate expressively, right? So in the earlier, stages of my career, like we would do projects. I will lead. I will understand it more than anyone in the room. We'll go for meetings, and then people will communicate it better than I did, right? And I remember my first review with my boss. He told me something that stuck with me, which caused me to change the entire course of my career, which is that in this FMCG world, it's good to know, but then you are judged mostly based on what you say or the impressions people have about you, right? So that got me into, researching on, like, communicating expressively, right? Having mirror time, sometimes we go for things and I'll spend an hour just practicing what I'll say, right? I took a lot of courses on, PowerPoints and presentation skills as well, which completely turned the course of my career, because I knew it's probably more than anyone, right, in a group, but then adding on the ability to then effectively communicate caused me to stand out, right, and accelerate my career path. Right. So I think initially that was the barrier which almost became inimical to my career growth, but then I overcame it in the long run.
All right, thank you. James, yourself?
Okay, so overall, it's been positive on my side, but the same side which keeps me, different from others, at times also has the tendency to sort of create issues. And with that, I mean, our analytical skills. Engineers are highly analytical. And one thing about being highly analytical is that you are most likely going to be risk averse. And with risk averse, I mean not wanting to take risk and not wanting to jump in when you have to, and waiting for too long. So I think initially that was a challenge, because you would want to really dig deeper to understand the implications of all the decisions the team is relying on you to take based on your reports and all of that. But then I think once I learned to manage this, that has improved the way I deliver.
Okay. James, were there any moments during your career transition where you doubted your decision to switch careers? If so, how did you overcome those doubts?
Yeah, so talking about doubts, that's quite interesting. But I think along the line, when I told you I had to educate myself all again in finance and other things that I needed for my new career. And in the earlier days, what happened was that I was schooling, and
Right.
there were times you would want to whilst I was working, I was getting paid. It was exciting, and I mentioned that at the initial stage, I didn't have the scholarship which came in after my first semester. So it was quite challenging, and I felt like whether I made the right decision or not, because after all, I was working, I was okay. So it was quite at that point, and the feeling of guilt and thinking that you should have stayed in your lane all came over me. But then I think the resilience, to continue paid off, and I think I'm enjoying, having overcome all of that.
Okay. Jamel, despite saying you knew right from the beginning that you had to switch, were there still moments where you doubted this decision, and how were you able to overcome this?
So for me, it was not like a full-blown doubt, because like I said, as soon as I joined the FMCG world, it was just like fate or destiny, because, God's will, as you say. I super enjoyed it because, you got to travel a lot, meet a lot of dignitaries, visit various countries. You meet very highly intellectual guys as well from various fields. And more than even get to dress nicely, and not to be in the field with all the debt, or, the ruggedness that came with civil engineering. But think that where I had minor doubts back to my family. So whenever we had family gatherings, my sister in particular, she would be like, "Are you sure this decision you took was the right one?" And if for the next few minutes, I'll sit down and think, why is my sister so averse not liking the idea for me switching? So that those periods were when I would just think probably for the next few minutes. But then because I had a strong conviction, I was enjoying what I was doing. It did not set me back, that much. Really, it was just those doubts that they kept raising. Are you sure you're making the right decision and all? No. But it was overall, it was not like a very big doubt or a very big moment in my life where I was almost regretful of the decision. No, I didn't have that.
Right. Do you remember you mentioned at the beginning that going to medical school after engineering and working for a while was quite challenging for you? Aside this, were there any points in your career or even during the transition period that you had doubts about switching careers? And how were you able to overcome this?
Okay, so when I think the very first time I entered the medical school, I started doubting my decision because then, as I said, I had to now go and be reading biology, and then it wouldn't have been so scary if we're all like having probably some mathematical background or engineering background. We're all struggling too, but then you had entered the class with people who had done nursing, and nursing they do practically everything like med school, just that they do a softer part of it. So you have people, pharmacists, you have like chemistry. People already had a start, and you are now going to struggle to get the start before you join the stream to do. So that's created that scale. And then along the way to you meet the bosses, and then when they get to know that you did engineering, I think one occasion one of my boss called me to his office and he was like, but you never got anybody to where is this man going? He said, "Oh no, this is the wrong decision. My son did engineering, and then right now he's making it."
Yeah.
And then you have our course that is not profiting, it is not worth it and all that. So those moments, then I'm like, wow. But I think working so far, I really think fine. Money counts, yes, but the fulfillment is also very important because you go to work, you see somebody you've helped, somebody who came in and you feel that, oh, this person is not going to make it out of the hospital. But then through whatever it is you've studied, you help and then you come out and the person is discharged. I think it's fulfilling. So there are moments like that, but that's how I overcome it with when my patients recover and then they make it out of the hospital.
So I think that has even ushered me into my next question. I wanted to explore what you believe is the most rewarding aspect of your current profession, which you believe you may not have found pursuing civil engineering.
Yeah. So I think that's it. So with engineering, you realize that people have issues. Probably the roads are not good. We don't have a good drainage system, there's flooding and all that. But sometimes you are somewhere, you need some funds and all that, and you are the engineer, you have drawn your whatever, but it can't really materialize because I mean it's stuck. Okay, so you want to help, but you can't really do that unless somebody pushes. But I think with medicine, I entered and I realized that directly if the person needs help, you can actually help, and that's the fulfilling part. The child comes very 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 sick, and I think I even chose the child medicine because children make your work more fulfilling. I mean, they come in very hopeless, and then the same condition a child will come in, maybe an adult will come in, and probably the adult might not make it, but children will come in and then the next moment they are up and going, they are playing. And then I think that's the fulfilling part of medicine as compared to engineering.
Okay. James, I'd like to hear from you. What do you think has been the most rewarding aspect of your current profession?
Yeah, so I think for me, fulfillment, because mentioned that I was driven by passion. So the fact that today I find myself doing what I dreamt of some years ago, you know, there's this sense of fulfillment that I have. And also I have had the opportunity to do a lot of things that I think if I had pursued engineering, I wouldn't have had the courage to do. For instance, when I was done with school and I first came back to Ghana, I was involved in this startup. You know, we did a lot of things. We managed to achieve a lot of things. Unfortunately, you know, the business didn't be, you know, in the year. And financially, I mean, it's quite burdened, and there's quite you know, an increasing amount of demand that is on the profession, and I think it's going to be exciting in the years ahead.
Right. Okay, thank you very much for that, Jamel. How about yourself?
Yeah, so one of the things, also just to educate some of us on the platform, right? One of the main, aims of fast-moving consumer goods companies is the higher order benefits, right? So in Procter & Gamble, our vision or mission then was touching and improving lives. In Reckitt, it's protect, heal, and nurture consumers globally, right? And well, there's the financial rewards that come with it, but if you go into details as to what we actually do, there's fulfillment every single day I get up to go to work. So for example, back to Reckitt, the protect parts, right? So we manufacture and sell products like Dettol, right? And Dettol, when you use it on your surfaces, it helps to kill bacteria, which then does not cause you to get sick, in the simplest of terms, right? During the COVID, pandemic, right? Dettol contains an active ingredient that actually kills the COVID virus, right? So there was a huge demand for Dettol globally. We had to actually shut down our Ezion, which is a spray starch or fabric straightener factory, to produce more Dettol in the US because the product was helping fight COVID. You see, and I don't know what other fulfillment you get aside seeing people being protected in their lives. We also talk about heal, right? So we have a pharmaceutical wing as well. So we produce Gaviscon, it's an antacid, Nurofen, Strepsils, right? And these are products that when consumers use who are sick and they get better, you get the fulfillment as well. The last example is Jik. So Jik is an antibacterial bleach, and it's as an individual formulation, is able to serve the purpose of a multi-complex water processing plant, right? So in Zambia, there was a village where they were struggling to get clean drinking water, right? We provided Jik, and with just a drop in the water, which they were fetching from their river, they were getting 100% purification that would have got through a complex water treatment process, right? And seeing children being able to drink clean drinking water because of the products you develop for them, that brings, the massive fulfillment every day of life, right? So, and of course, there's a financial benefit, but then this far outweighs that as well.
Okay, Jamel. So I see you find your job very fulfilling. Are you able to share pivotal moments that affirmed your decision that made you see that, okay, yes, I made the right choice switching careers?
Yeah, so several of them, in fact, let me use the recent one. So I've had several moments, but now I have the strongest conviction that I made a decision because of the current role I do, which is leading the Africa division of the global expansion, right? Global expansion market is a division relatively new in Reckitt, right? It's less than 4 years. And our mandate is to serve the untapped or white space markets in Africa, globally, but then I manage the market for Africa, so specifically for Africa. And if you see what we are currently doing, right, the former or the previous business model was not allowing products to be sold in countries like Guinea, in Senegal, even in the neighboring countries like Ivory Coast. We were really struggling because the business model was not allowing us to sell. Now, with the current business model I carved out, we're able to reach those markets with all the products I mentioned and we are getting this higher order benefit I mentioned about, or I spoke about, where we are serving them with products like Mortein, which is reducing the malaria cases in those countries, right? We have serving them with Durex, for example, which is enabling people to have a way. So the impact I'm having in Africa, right? It affects the decision I took 15 or 16 years ago to switch from civil engineering to the FMCG space. The impact that you make globally, right, is immense. And I am very convicted that I made the right decision.
Well, it looks like after this session, I might have to get you to write me a check for using my platform to advertise your products. That's just by the way. James, have you had any pivotal moments that have affirmed your decision to switch careers?
Yes, quite a number of them, but I would use my current role and my organization as an example to pinpoint what actually got me thinking that I actually made the right decision. So currently I work with Fido Group, which is an Israeli fintech firm, and the aim is to become the first neobank in Africa. So currently we are operating in Ghana and Uganda, and we actually have the Central Bank of South Africa's license to operate over there, and we hope to enter that market soon. And basically with what I do, I'm with the risk management team, like the global risk management team. So we actually are in charge of making sure that the risk engine, which is an AI backed model, is actually delivering as expected and generating the impact we expect when it comes to default cases with respect to loans. Mm-hmm. The other aspect is that we actually serving the unbanked. And when I say the unbanked, these are people who on a normal day will not get a loan from a bank. And of course, we also have people who are okay and are on our platform, which is an app on iOS and then Android. But we see a lot of people who ordinarily would not have gotten the chance to pick up a facility to create opportunities for themselves. And we have a lot of success stories, in Ghana and Uganda, where these people have had a chance to create opportunities for themselves and are not doing so well. And I think that is quite fulfilling. Although initially the thinking was that I was trying to switch to better my life, but eventually I get to see the impact that this has on our customers, which makes me feel like I'm actually doing something that is also impactful and affirms the decision to move into this area.
Right. Right. Jemima, you spoke about how fulfilling it is for you seeing a child who came in sick and then suddenly jumping around playing with other children. Are you able to share a specific story, a moment where it affirmed your decision to switch to medicine?
Okay, so the initial push for me to do medicine was there was this box that was in a doctor's room I entered. I think I was about 9 or 10 years at that time. I wasn't well, and then I had seen on the box it was a heart disease. So that was what even started this passion of becoming a doctor. I told the doctor, I dropped the coin in, and I told them that I think I would want to join the doctors who save lives of children. So that was what drove this whole passion. So there was one child who came in one time had the heart defect, and mean, when the parents are not coming from a very good financially sound background, so it felt a bit helpless, because I was like, this thing, if the child gets it fixed, the child will survive. So using the fact that I had done engineering, you know, when you approach somebody and the person knows, hey, you did engineering, you know, a doctor, they feel you are like a superstar or something. People feel fascinated.
Yeah.
So using that one and that drive and that passion to make sure that this child makes it, I managed to mobilize and get people to at least donate and support. And this child, I saw this child about 8 years ago. We had their heart fixed, and child is still doing well and thriving. So I think that's alone. Even my see, I have to see medicine to help many of such people. So I think that's one.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. So Jemima, I'll still keep this question on you. Despite leaving the field behind, so to say, how do you stay connected with the engineering community and leverage your engineering network in your current field?
Okay. I think for me, there's this WhatsApp group that my classmates formed. Initially, because I was in school and then they added me, I'm like, oh, they talk too much and they're making noise of engineering, and then you are struggling to understand medicine, and then you always come back and plenty messages. But
Yeah.
I decided to just stay in it and then just observe things, and I've realized it helps, because then anytime there's something new about engineering they are discussing, and then even though you are not in it, you get to update yourself on what is happening. You still have them as your friends, so when you need them you can easily just call on one to help out, and everybody is like ready to help when you need it. So I think it's the group, and then the LinkedIn, all the other social media thing. It helps me to stay in touch with my engineering friends.
Right. Thank you for that. Jamel, I saw your smile when she mentioned the WhatsApp group. What has it been for you trying to stay connected with you? Right.
Yeah, if you ask them, I think I'm one of the most active members of the group, because
Okay.
I spend most of my time on WhatsApp, because most of my trading partners are across the world are on WhatsApp, and that's our unofficial means of communication. So once I'm on there, I find myself very active on the platform. Yeah, so I'm very connected to most of the friends, albeit via the WhatsApp platform. But then on a personal note, or I leverage your expertise a lot, because aside FMC, I do a lot of real estate as well.
Okay.
Right, and most of the design, actually all of the designs, also my colleagues to help me with the designs for the construction of the projects as well. So yeah, I'm very connected, even though I'm not directly practicing civil engineering.
Right.
I have never practiced engineering. I'm super connected on the WhatsApp platform, but also I leverage the expertise in my personal projects.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so James, is it the same for you? Are you able to keep up with the engineering community? I know your work involves working with some engineers as well, but then other than that, how are you leveraging the network you have?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's quite interesting to know that I mean, as you're aware, the three of us completed the same year, so we are in the same WhatsApp platform, and it's quite
Right.
interesting. And we continue to follow events there, we continue to support each other, and for me, I'm still, although out of the field, I still do collaborate on projects with engineering firms, and I think you are aware of this, where
Yes.
I also, in some cases, would act as a financial expert on some engineering projects. So I'm still connected, and we get to do a lot of things. Some of the people I get to meet on regular basis, Jamel, for instance, because of what we do together. And we are still connected, and I believe these are friends we made for life, and we'll continue to be in touch.
Right, that's great. So to wrap up our session, which I wish wouldn't end right away, but it has to, unfortunately, what advice do you have for individuals who are contemplating a career shift away from their initial field of study? I'll start with you, James.
Yeah, so I think first of all, you have to have that conviction that you really want to move. That is very important, because when the going gets tough, that is what you would need to keep you going. So the conviction to move is very key. And once you have that conviction, I think the next thing is to do further research on what you really want to do, the thing you actually want to do, and then get to understand what you are likely to undertake. And I believe once these things are sorted, these two things are sorted, we are ready. But at some point, if the conviction is that strong, you have to make the move.
Right. Okay, Jemima, what advice do you have for individuals who are contemplating a career shift?
Okay, so I just want to agree with James. I think you need to really be convinced that that is what you want to do, because it's very difficult in our part of the world here if you are not convinced that you want to switch. And then you need to be abreast with the expectations and the protocols of that area you are switching to, because they are switching from one area to another, and then the expectations might be different. So if you are not up to date with that, then you will struggle. You also need some sort of support, somebody or a group of people that you can actually be talking to, be encouraging you when it's becoming a bit difficult, because it is not easy to just transition. And then you make it your point to work hard at it. As soon as you move, make sure you are actually going to work hard to succeed in the field, because you moving is going to be something like an inspiration to any other person who you are damping the spirits of all others who are looking up to you. So you ensure that you moving should be to make it successful in whatever it is you are going to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jamel, I started with you, so I guess it's only right that I ask you the final question. Yeah, so what advice do you have for anyone who wants to switch careers?
In addition to what my friends have said, so on having the conviction, on having the right support system, you should have mentors that you can easily go and speak to, some direct, some indirect, because some of them, like when I started off, right, I was very, very passionate about this guy, about Elon Musk, even though most people did not know him, right, with all the things he had started doing, even in South Africa before moving to the USA. I used to look at him and then I was very inspired. They also Steve Jobs then before he died. There was an inspiration for me. Yeah, so have someone in the field that you want to move into that you look up to, right? But more importantly, what I would say is that you always have to look at the big picture. You see, I'm a man of belief, man of faith, and I also believe strongly in the will of God for your life, right? There has to be the prayer to ensure that you are making the right move that aligns with the will of God, right? So I think that's something that is very, very crucial. You pray about it a lot, and then God will direct you in your steps, and then also the right move to make. But lastly, I also want to talk about integrity as well. So honesty is truthfulness, others. Integrity is honesty to yourself, right? Ensure that you are the one who knows mostly, or who knows the most about whatever field that you want to get into, which then means that you have to research, learn, and be a master in that field. When you have that integrity box ticked, all the doubters, those who question your move, even though people will make comments, you would have that. That will be what will fuel the conviction, because you know what you are doing and you're striving for excellence, and that will help you to be successful in whatever field you decide to move in, once you are pretty sure it aligns with the will of God for your life. So I think that would be the thing to add, looking at the big picture.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Jamel. Ladies and gentlemen, all too soon, we are coming to the end of yet another Construmat K&E session. I hope it has been intriguing for you as it has been for me. At this point, we'll take a few questions from the audience. If you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll call on to you to do so. Okay. All right then. So as we conclude, I'll just tell everyone here to remember that career paths are diverse, and these stories remind us that it is okay to evolve. Thank you to our esteemed panelists. Okay, right. Jacqueline, I see you have your hand up. Would you want to ask a question? Yes, Jacqueline, you can go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for this morning. It's just a compliment that I admire how brave you all are to delve into other careers. It's admirable, and congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jacqueline. Okay, all right then. So as I was saying, we have to be reminded that career paths are not diverse, and the stories we've heard today are just a reminder that it is okay to evolve. So once again, to our esteemed panelists who have made the time to engage with us this morning, thank you all for joining us. And then until next time, stay inspired and keep pushing the boundaries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
then.
you.
Okay, you enjoy the rest of your day.